Chapter 161, Auction Ends. The current bids were reasonable enough, but they completely unnerved the people from the Heavenly Serpent Mansion. Xiao Kun, however, could only think that this was the best outcome. Offending the Heavenly Serpent Mansion was inevitable sooner or later, and he didn't mind the small affronts now. Luman was still under house arrest at the Xiao family. Once Xiao Kun grew stronger, he intended to go to the Heavenly Serpent Mansion to claim the secret method for cultivating the triple jade-green snake-flower pupils for Qing Lin. Going after such a legacy would almost certainly bring him into conflict with the Heavenly Serpent Mansion, so the minor slights today were irrelevant. With that, the Earth-rank low-tier cultivation technique and dough technique, one of the auction's main items, ended up in Xiao Kun's hands. The verbal sparring between the Heavenly Serpent Mansion and the Black Skull Tomb quieted for the moment under the auction staff's mediation. Next is the second highlight and the final item of this auction. The white-haired elder and auctioneer announced. This pill can only be refined by a handful of alchemists in the Black Corner region. It's a rare medicinal pill that can directly increase one's strength. He paused, scanned the crowd, and seeing their interest, raised 3 jade bottles for all to see. This is the Huangji pill. It can shave years off training and directly raise one's Dough Emperor rank by 2 stars. Most importantly, the lot tonight is not 1 pill, but 3. 3 Huangji pills being auctioned together. 3 of these would be enough to seriously strengthen any force. Don't miss this opportunity. The auctioneer pronounced the best possible outcome, 2-star increases, loudly and confidently. Those actually able to bid already had a good understanding of the pill, so his words were simply a sales tactic to stoke desire and push the price higher. Below the stage, Xiao Kun and Yun exchanged a glance and, with the same little smile, silently acknowledged, "Small world." After scanning the pill's auras and patterns, they were sure these were the same 3 Huangji pills. Xiao Kun had traded to Wang Cheng of the 1,000 Medicine Workshop a few days earlier. Now, for unknown reasons, the pills had turned up at this auction. Their quiet reaction drew Yafei's attention. "What's wrong? Do they look familiar?" she asked. "Look closely," Yun prompted. "Don't they?" Yafei and Medusa turned their gazes toward the jade bottles. Could these be the pills refined by Xiao Kun? "That's right. A few days ago Yun began, then recounted what she and Xiao Kun had done. "It seems the master of the 1,000 Medicine Workshop and the sect leader of the 8 Gates are close." Yafei gave a soft, surprised sigh. That would make sense. Because the auction hall was large and the first row sparsely filled, their conversation didn't carry to the Heavenly Serpent Mansion or the Black Skull Tomb. Otherwise, those factions would have been shocked to learn Xiao Kun was already a 6th-grade alchemist at such a young age. Meanwhile, everyone else in the hall had been stirred by the appearance of 3 Huangji pills at once. A 6th-grade peak medicinal pill was rare enough. 3 together was astonishing. For weaker factions, it was bittersweet. 3 in a lot meant the odds of getting one were slimmer, and the price would soar. If auctioned separately, more could chance acquiring one. As expected, the first-row seats, occupied by the major powers, lit up. If either the Heavenly Serpent Mansion or the Black Skull Tomb secured all 3, keeping one and bringing the others back to their allies would be a tremendous coup. Both factions eyed Xiao Kun, hoping he might bid. He had never sold or bid on pills publicly before. But Xiao Kun had no intention of bidding on medicine, especially not pills he'd already traded away. His expression clearly signaled he would not participate. That looked reassured both camps. Since these 3 are sold as one lot, the starting price is 3 million gold coins, the auctioneer declared. 4 million. A middle-aged man from the Black Skull Tomb announced immediately, adding 1 million to show determination. His bid briefly deterred some aspiring buyers and saved the room a moment. 5 million, the Heavenly Serpent Mansion shot back without hesitation. The 2 forces quickly drove the price up together, basically doubling it in an instant. The crowd watched as the first-row factions raised bids in sums that put ordinary buyers out of reach. Even compared to Xiao Kun's previous extravagance, these prices were immense. For most in the hall, the sums were unattainable. Xiao Kun looked on as the price climbed, something he could ignore, feeling a small, quiet satisfaction that after years of cultivating, he had a foothold on the Fighting Chi continent. 9,850,000. 9,900,000. Within minutes, the price had surged toward 10 million, far beyond the 9 million Xiao Kun had estimated. Both factions understood the price had surpassed the pill's nominal worth, but continued cautiously, probing for an opponent's bottom line. 2 minutes later, as Xiao Kun had predicted, when the bid climbed to 12 million gold coins, the men from the Black Skull tomb fell back, faces darkening. The Heavenly Serpent Mansion remained the sole bidder and became the final buyer. Those from the Heavenly Serpent Mansion felt mixed emotions, joy at securing the pills and regret for overspending by several million gold coins. All things considered, the joy outweighed the pain. Chapter 162. Dream. With the 3 Huangji pills successfully won by the Heavenly Serpent Mansion, the annual auction drew to a close. To avoid wasting time while the crowd still lingered, Yun and her group followed Xiao Kun's signal and slowly left under the spectators' eyes. Once outside and noting the dimming sky, Xiao Kun led them toward the reception room beside the auction hall. When they entered, he found an elderly figure already waiting inside. Steward Hu, the official in charge of auction affairs, had arrived early to handle the handover. Seeing Xiao Kun, he did not delay. Mr. Xiao Kun, the items you successfully bid on tonight are as follows. Profound rank intermediate flying dough technique, Wind Thunder Tiger Wings, 4 million gold coins. Profound rank advanced movement dough technique, Following the Wind, 3 million gold coins. 7th tier medicinal herb Jade Bloodgrass, 2 million gold coins. Earth rank elementary cultivation technique and dough technique, 18 million gold coins. That makes a total of 41 million gold coins. Besides those 4 high-value items, Xiao Kun had also purchased several ordinary cultivation techniques, dough techniques, and weapons, so Steward Hu's tally was correct. He then handed Xiao Kun a storage ring containing the auctioned items and a gold card etched with elegant patterns. The storage ring holds everything you bought tonight. This gold card is our auction house's level 1 VIP card. It gives you a 10% reduction on auction fees. Your final total is 36,900,000 gold coins. Xiao Kun thanked Steward Hu. He was somewhat surprised by the concession, nearly 4 million gold, but there was no reason to refuse a gift. Declining would only make him seem foolish. After a polite exchange, he accepted the storage ring and the VIP card, verified the contents, and produced a purple gold card with a 100 million gold deposit. Steward Hu used it to deduct the fees. Once the gold was taken, the steward visibly relaxed. He had taken a risk by handing over the items first, and if Xiao Kun had run off without paying, he would have been ruined. Grateful that his gamble had been safe, he returned the purple gold card to Xiao Kun with both hands. Since everything is settled, we'll take our leave now. Xiao Kun was about to depart when Steward Hu suddenly called after him. Wait, Mr. Xiao Kun, our sect leader wishes to speak with you. Do you have the time? Xiao Kun waved him off. No, thank you. I still have important matters to attend to. He dismissed the request and left without looking back. Knowing they were unlikely to meet again and that the 8 Gates sect master held nothing he needed, he chose not to waste the time. Steward Hu watched them go with a sigh of regret. Our little 8 Gates truly can't attract people like them, he muttered. At that moment, the 8 Gates sect master, a broad-shouldered man, entered from the side door and sighed. Steward Hu immediately bowed. The sect master's disappointment was plain and Steward Hu said nothing more. After leaving the auction house, Xiao Kun and his companions returned to the inn. Once inside, Xiao Kun planned how to distribute the auction gains in order to trigger the critical strike, but before handing out the items, he needed a reason for Yun and the others to give something back. Otherwise, constantly receiving gifts without returning anything would strain their relationship in a short time. He thought for a moment, then a mischievous idea crossed his mind. A strange smile appeared on his face. Yuner, Fayer, I have a dream. I wonder if you two can make it come true for me. If it's something beyond our ability, how could we help? Yafei asked. This is something only the 2 of you can do, Xiao Kun said. If that's the case, tell us. We'll do our best, Yun added. They agreed immediately without asking for details. But the smile on Xiao Kun's face deepened, and both women felt a sudden, uneasy premonition. Specifically, what is it? They asked aloud. Xiao Kun wasted no words. He used Do-Chi transmission to whisper the request into their ears. Medusa, standing nearby, saw the subtle use of Do-Chi transmission and, sensing its secrecy, grew curious. That curiosity vanished the moment she watched Yunyun and Yafei's fair faces flush crimson as if they might bleed. Smart enough to read the scene, Medusa guessed Xiao Kun had not asked for anything proper. Dizzy and mortified, Yunyun and Yafei blushed deeply. They realized what they'd agreed to. Xiao Kun wanted the two of them to serve him together. Exchanging a look, each saw the same mixture of shyness and regret in the other's eyes. They wanted to protest, but remembering how well Xiao Kun had treated them, they clutched at their robes with trembling hands, lowered their heads, and fell silent. Seeing their silent reaction, Xiao Kun smiled and said, "Then I'll take that as your agreement." Their heads stayed down, still processing. Xiao Kun took out the items he intended as thanks and began handing them over. "Since you agreed to fulfill such a big dream of mine, I must express my gratitude. You two are the only ones among us with fire affinity Do-Chi. I already have a suitable cultivation technique, so the fire attribute earth rank low-tier cultivation technique and Do technique I won at the auction will go to Yafei, and I'm giving you the flying Do technique I promised before as well." He pressed 3 scrolls into Yafei's hands. Then he looked to Yunyun. "The profound rank advanced movement Do technique I won will be for you." He tucked the cyan scroll into Yunyun's arms. Almost at once, as if the system had already recorded the transfers, a familiar prompt sounded in Xiao Kun's mind. Chapter 163, Great Creation Palm. Ding! You gifted Yafei an earth-rank low-grade cultivation technique, Blazing Flame Art, and Do technique, Burning Sea Palm, and a profound rank intermediate flying Do technique, Wind Thunder Tiger Wings. You triggered 10,000 times critical compensation. You obtained a heaven rank elementary cultivation technique, Flame Art, and Do technique, Great Creation Palm, and an earth rank intermediate flying Do technique, Wind Thunder Eagle Wings. Ding! You gifted Yunyun a profound rank advanced movement skill, Following the Wind. You triggered 10,000 times critical compensation. You obtained an earth rank advanced movement skill, 3,000 lightning illusion body. Note, to ensure easier learning, the prerequisite Do technique is gifted, earth rank low-grade Do technique, 3,000 lightning movement. All items have been stored in the system space. Please check. It was all the 10,000 times critical compensation. Xiao Kun hadn't expected his luck to swing so wildly in his favor again. He was stunned for a moment, then a pleased smile spread across his face. The items from the critical hit would be a tremendous help to both Yafei and Yunyun. Many of them, like the Great Creation Palm and the 3,000 Lightning Illusion Body, had appeared in the original story and were techniques Xiao Yan had once trained. Xiao Kun knew them well. Their power was considerable and had given Xiao Yan huge advantages. Now they were his. For Xiao Kun, who lacked any heaven-rank Do technique, the Great Creation Palm was perfect. It would greatly boost his combat strength. But a heaven-ranked Do skill required at least a Do Venerate to cultivate, and it also needed a rare tempering material, the Golden Spirit Saliva. The system had only provided enough Golden Spirit Saliva for one person, so Xiao Kun decided not to take the Great Creation Palm out for now. He was more than satisfied with the haul. The smile on his face brightened. Yunyun and Yafei, who had been acting like wooden dolls, watched intently as Xiao Kun withdrew several scrolls from the system's space, excluding the Great Creation Palm. The 3 women immediately reacted when the scrolls appeared. The sight of those scrolls carried an undeniable weight. When the red heaven-rank low-grade cultivation technique scroll appeared, the surrounding fire energy stirred and the temperature in the room rose noticeably. None of them had seen scrolls that produced such an effect before. Their full attention snapped to the items in Xiao Kun's hands. Relieved that the 2 women were finally animated again, Xiao Kun first turned to Yunyun. "Yunair, these 2 silver scrolls are for you. One is the Earth rank low-grade movement Do technique, 3,000 lightning movement, and the other is the Earth rank advanced movement, Do technique, 3,000 lightning illusion body." The 3000 lightning movement is the prerequisite for the illusion body. You must fully master the movement before you can cultivate the illusion body. Also, both of these are secret legacies of the Wind and Thunder Pavilion in the Central Plains. If you ever encounter members of the Wind and Thunder Pavilion alone, don't use them unless your strength is more than sufficient. All right, I'll be careful. Yunyun's chest swelled with warmth at Xiao Kun's careful warning. She felt grateful, touched by his concern. Just as she thought that was all, Xiao Kun held up another scroll, purplish-blue this time. This is the Earth Rank Intermediate Flying Do technique, Wind Thunder Eagle Wings. After you refine this, combined with your Wind attribute Fighting Chi, which gives you a unique speed boost, I think at the Dosect stage your speed will be unmatched. Thank you, Yunyun whispered. Words failed her, her gratitude condensed into a single sincere reply. She knew Xiao Kun had been giving her gifts these past days to raise her strength and keep her safe. She hadn't been able to repay his concern, but her feelings for him had already surged like a storm. Satisfied, Xiao Kun turned to Yafei, who looked expectant. Fair, this last scroll is yours. It's the most valuable one here, a heaven-rank low-grade fire cultivation technique, flame art. With it, I believe your cultivation base will catch up quickly. A heaven-rank cultivation method, Yafei cried, eyes shining. Yunyun and even Medusa glanced at the glowing scroll with astonishment. Intense fire energy radiated from it, making it impossible to ignore. Yes, work hard and catch up soon. I will. Yafei's cheeks flushed. A heaven-rank cultivation method was top tier even on the Fighting Chi continent. Only a few forces in the Central Plains possessed such treasures. Xiao Kun had casually handed one to her. She felt a deep swell of gratitude. She wanted to repay him, and the thought made her face warm. Xiao Kun looked over at Medusa, who had been watching quietly, and smiled. Medusa, since you've evolved into the seven-colored sky-swallowing python, you probably have plenty of legacy cultivation techniques and do techniques. I didn't prepare anything for you. That's all right, yes? None of your business, Medusa snorted, turning slightly to give him a dismissive profile. Even as she spoke coldly, a touch of grievance flashed across her face. Brief, involuntary, and she quickly masked it. The strange feeling surprised even her. Memories of Xiao Kun's care, his accidental displays of concern, his teasing, they pricked at something she hadn't expected. For a moment she wondered, could she be developing feelings for him? She scolded herself, impossible, and clenched her hand into a fist. Xiao Kun merely smiled and shook his head at Medusa's proud, petulant manner and said no more. He then, being stronger and more experienced, gave Yunyun and Yafei a careful, detailed explanation of the precautions and proper methods for cultivating the techniques and do techniques. While he was instructing them, he didn't notice the tiny change in Medusa's expression. If he had, he would have been elated. Medusa's sudden affectation meant he occupied some place in her heart, and that would have been good news indeed. Time passed. The sky outside had already darkened. After a long while of teaching and answering questions, Xiao Kun paused, glanced up at the night, and thought about how he might make his dream come true tonight. Chapter 164, Peace Town. Xiao Kun rushed downstairs and booked the room next to theirs for Medusa, while the other three women watched in stunned silence. About the earlier argument over sharing a room for safety, Xiao Kun now insisted that Medusa, who was at Dozong level, was perfectly safe in the Black Corner region. Seeing his insistence, Yafei and Yunyun blushed again. Medusa shot him a look that belonged on a wild animal, snorted coldly, and strode toward the room he had just reserved without a backward glance. Once Medusa had gone, only Xiao Kun, Yafei, and Yunyun remained in the large chamber. An awkward quiet settled over them. Time stretched on, and the only things that seemed loud were the 3 quick heartbeats in the still room. A suggestive tension rose between them. At the right moment, Xiao Kun reached out and took both women's small hands. As they relaxed, he slid his arms around both of their slender waists at once. By morning, when daylight crept into the Heaven Character guest room, Xiao Kun lay on the enormous bed with a satisfied smile. He opened his eyes to see Yunyun and Yafei curled against him like 2 contented kittens. Their faces were peaceful in sleep. Perhaps they were still tired from last night's exertions. Xiao Kun lingered, enjoying a rare, calm moment, quietly admiring their sleeping faces. Half an hour later, they woke. The instant Yun and Yafei opened their eyes and took in the scene, embarrassment flooded them, and they buried themselves beneath the covers without a word. Seeing their reaction, Xiao Kun chuckled softly and rose first to break the awkwardness. After washing, he opened the door and left the room, giving them space. He had only taken 2 steps into the corridor when he heard Medusa's door creak open. Medusa's cold, glamorous face appeared for a moment. Then she slammed the door shut so hard it sounded like a bang. Xiao Kun's smile froze. He felt a little helpless. Last night's events had apparently done nothing to improve his standing in Medusa's eyes. Inside, Medusa was equally flustered. The sight of Xiao Kun's smug, triumphant smile had provoked her into slamming the door. Could she really be acting like this? She wondered, quietly annoyed at herself. Xiao Kun, however, didn't overthink it. After being shut out, he went down to the lobby, sipped tea, and listened to the chatter until enough time had passed. When he returned, Yun and Yafei had finished dressing and were chatting and laughing together. Whatever had happened only seemed to draw them closer. They were relaxed and composed again, almost sister-like in their familiarity. Watching them, Xiao Kun sighed. If anything, last night had made their bond deeper. They stayed in Black Seal City 2 more days. Aside from acquiring a rare 7th-tier medicinal herb from Wang Cheng at the Thousand Medicines workshop, Xiao Kun did nothing of consequence. Mostly, he spent the time enjoying himself with Yun and Yafei, whose relationship with him had reached a new milestone. Let's head to our destination, Jianan Academy, today, Xiao Kun suggested. Feeling that Black Seal City had nothing more to offer, he presented the plan. All right, we have no objections, the two replied. They packed and prepared to leave. Medusa had already reverted to her little devouring python form a day earlier. The little heaven-swallowing python would hardly object to Xiao Kun's proposal. Outside Black Seal City, in a remote, uninhabited area, Xiao Kun checked the map for Jianan Academy's coordinates. He tore open space with both hands, and the familiar spatial tunnel, the one Yun and Yafei knew well, appeared. 10 minutes later, they emerged from the tunnel together. Xiao Kun scanned the surroundings. The terrain near Jianan Academy was nothing like the flat darkness of the Black Corner region he had expected. Instead of a black plain, they found mountains and forests, steep peaks, and yellow earth. It surprised him that Jianan Academy, the academy at the center of the Black Corner region, would be set in such scenery. He extended his soul power to probe the area. Peacetown, the gateway to Jianan Academy, lay only 200 miles away. After informing Yun and Yafei, they set off. After some time in flight, Xiao Kun spotted a small town tucked between 2 massive peaks. A yellow dirt avenue several miles long stretched out before it. Figures moved along the road, most of them heading into the town. From the fierce auras hanging over the crowd, he guessed many of them had come from the Black Corner region. What struck him was how restrained they looked, grim and aggressive, but not fighting. He realized it must be the reputation of Jianan Academy keeping them in check. No one wanted to provoke the academy. As they descended over the avenue on dochi wings, they drew astonished gasps from below. They neared the town gate, where a sign read Peacetown. Before they could land, a man with dochi wings shot out from the town and halted about 50 meters from them. He was a middle-aged Do King, his expression calm but wary. "Why have the 3 of you come to Peacetown? Do you not know that flying is prohibited within 100 miles of Jianan Academy?" he asked, his tone carrying a quiet interrogation. He had confidence because of the academy's backing. If a fight began in Peacetown, Jianan Academy could summon countless experts at once. He guessed this was another Black Corner region party trying to cause trouble and was determined to project the academy's authority. Chapter 165, Meeting Xiao Yan again. Facing the Do King from Jianan Academy, who was questioning the 3 of them, Xiao Kun, knowing he was in the wrong, didn't lose his temper. He smiled and explained, "Sorry, this is our first time in the Black Corner region. We didn't know about Jianan Academy's rules. I hope you'll understand." The middle-aged Do King's expression softened at Xiao Kun's polite tone. "Then what brings you 3 to Jianan Academy?" "I'm Xiao Kun. I've come to find my younger brother, Xiao Yan. He studies at the Inner Academy." Xiao Yan from the Inner Academy of the Jiama Empire? Yes, the three of us are from the Jiama Empire. The Doe King's face immediately brightened when he heard they were fellow countrymen, and the wariness in his eyes eased. The dead spirit tree at Peacetown's entrance bore the corpses of several Doe Kings, and even Doe Emperors who had provoked Jianan Academy in the past. Because of those precedents, ordinary people in the Black Corner region rarely dared act insolently toward the Academy. Hearing that Xiao Kun was searching for someone, the Doe King believed him and said, "In that case, you can wait in Peacetown. I'll have someone notify Xiao Yan of your arrival." "Thank you." The Doe King glanced up toward the rooftops, where a group of young men and women had gathered after hearing the news. They wore light tunics with an azure insignia pinned to their chests, a dagger carved into the badge and stained with a little dried blood. They were Jianan Academy's law enforcement team. One of them immediately leaped across the roofs and sped away, no doubt to inform Xiao Yan. Having cleared up the misunderstanding, Xiao Kun felt it would be impolite to linger in the air and led Yunyun and Yafei down to Peacetown's main gate. The Doe King accompanied them and prepared to take them to the guest quarters reserved for visitors from Jianan Academy while they waited for Xiao Yan. As they walked into town, a few murmurs floated from behind them. As expected of a Doe King, you don't need to take the pill that detects killing intent to enter Peacetown. No, maybe he's connected to someone at the Academy. A Doe King still counts for little there. The Doe King heard them, turned, and smiled as he walked. Outsiders usually take a pill that detects killing intent before entering Peacetown. Once taken, the pill will cause anyone who generates killing intent to glow red, and the law enforcement team will find and expel them. It improves enforcement efficiency, but forcing unknown pills on people is a bit offensive, so... He paused and changed the subject. Since you're family of Xiao Yan, the new star of the Inner Academy, you won't have to deal with that. Thank you for your consideration, Xiao Kun thanked him sincerely. The Doe King laughed lightly. It's nothing. By the way, I heard you say you're Xiao Yan's elder brother. I didn't expect someone so young to already be a Doe King. Your family truly has talent. Not at all. Just lucky, Xiao Kun replied modestly. Xiao Kun couldn't help but be a little proud. Xiao Yan was doing well at Jianan Academy indeed. Before long, they reached the guest rooms reserved for visitors. The Doe King, needed elsewhere in town, left after identifying them to the manager. Xiao Kun and the others waited in the guest room through most of the day. As the sun began to set and the sky turned a hazy yellow, a loud griffin cry echoed over Peacetown. Xiao Kun detected Xiao Yan's familiar aura approaching and told Yafei and Yunyun to step outside. They looked up to see Xiao Yan riding a griffin several meters long, flying toward them. When the griffin hovered a few dozen meters above the ground, Xiao Yan leaped down. His recent breakthrough to a 7-star Doe spirit let him slow his descent when he was still several meters up, and he landed gently in front of Xiao Kun and the others. Third brother, 2 sisters-in-law, Xiao Yan called out with a bright smile. Seeing his family in the foreign Black Corner region had filled him with joy. He remembered Xiao Kun's promise from a year ago and knew his brother had traveled thousands of miles to help him obtain the Fallen Heart Flame. Grateful and warm, he could only show it with that radiant smile. A year has passed. Your cultivation has advanced rapidly. It won't be long before you become a Doe King yourself, Xiao Kun said. It's all thanks to third brother's medicinal pills. Xiao Yan answered, and the brothers entered the guest room, talking excitedly. From Xiao Yan's account, Xiao Kun learned that the Fallen Heart Flame had recently grown unstable and was showing signs of a full riot. The estimate was that the riot would be complete within a month. Xiao Kun promised he would deal with it, earning another burst of thanks from Xiao Yan. Jianan Academy's dean, Meng Chanqi, was absent. With Xiao Kun's strength, he could have gone straight to the academy and taken the heavenly flame, and no one could have stopped him, but that would tarnish his reputation. It would be far better to wait for the Fallen Heart Flame to riot and for Han Feng and his cronies to make a grab for it. Then Xiao Kun could intervene, save the day, secure the flame, and win everyone's gratitude. After the initial joy, Xiao Yan, who had grown attached to Jianan Academy over the past year, raised a sincere worry. Third brother, I must have the fallen heart flame for certain reasons. If the inner academy loses it, they'll lose their greatest support. Do you have a plan for that? Perhaps it was Xiao Kun's many unexpected feats that had made him seem almost omnipotent in Xiao Yan's eyes. Xiao Kun hesitated only briefly, then replied, "Don't worry, I have a solution. I won't make things difficult for you." He thought of the original fallen heart flame under the agitated lava, which could be used to compensate Jianan Academy, and answered confidently. Xiao Yan's smile grew even brighter. Nothing, it seemed, could stump third brother. Chapter 166, Legacy Space. After talking for a while, Xiao Kun reached into his storage ring and took out a single drop of Earth Spirit Marrow. The fluid could double the physical constitution of anyone below the Du Venerate rank. He knew Xiao Yan would soon attempt the fusion with the fallen heart flame. A stronger constitution would both raise his odds of success and ease the process. That drop, produced painfully from the seed of an earthfire lotus, was the last Xiao Kun possessed, reserved specifically for Xiao Yan. When Xiao Kun explained its effects and mentioned that Xiao Yan's father and the others would each receive a share, Xiao Yan's surprise returned. Xiao Yan then told Xiao Kun what had happened at the Black Seal City auction. As in the original story, he'd obtained a map fragment of the Purification Lotus Demon Flame and a low-level Earth rank movement Do technique, 3000 lightning movement. Xiao Kun offered his sincere congratulations. The two chatted late into the night before finally returning to their rooms. On the third day after his arrival in Peacetown, Xiao Yan, now an inner academy student, couldn't loiter outside much longer and left by Griffon for the academy. Xiao Kun and the others didn't waste time either. That same day, they moved to a secluded spot not far from Jianan Academy to practice the new cultivation techniques and Do techniques they'd acquired. Near was relative. With Xiao Kun's cultivation level, he could detect disturbances within Jianan Academy from 1,000 miles away, so even being dozens of miles off was safe. They chose a remote mountain forest with no signs of habitation for dozens of miles. For Yunyun's 3000 lightning movement, they even found a muddy swamp bordering the mountain. The three of them spread out and began training. Xiao Kun dug a small cave, sat cross-legged, and took out the golden scroll that represented the great creation palm. He knew the only way to truly learn a Do technique from such a scroll was to inject Do Qi into it. Gripping the scroll, he poured the vast abyssal Do Qi from his body into it. In a moment, the scroll cracked loudly and burst, releasing a blinding golden light. Two streaks of golden radiance shot out, one toward his head, the other toward his right hand. Calmly, Xiao Kun accepted both. The one that entered his head was a segment of legacy. Once inside, it condensed into a tiny golden speck that flickered in his mind as if waiting to be activated. The other was the golden spirit saliva, a strange substance meant to alter his palm. Before Xiao Kun could study the legacy, a sharp pain lanced his right hand. The golden spirit saliva slithered over his skin and, as if possessing intelligence, transformed into various shapes to examine his hand. Then it suddenly wrapped his entire right hand and exerted crushing pressure, bending his bones until they creaked. The pain was intense but brief. The saliva seeped into his palm and vanished. When the ache subsided, Xiao Kun inspected his hand. The skin glowed faintly with a metallic golden sheen. Circulating Du Qi into his hand, he discovered new hidden meridians, joined into a complete circuit, the necessary preparation for the great creation palm. Satisfied the prerequisites were met, Xiao Kun used his soul power to touch the tiny golden speck in his mind. Instantly the speck flared, and his consciousness was drawn into a place that felt unreal. He found himself standing in a pavilion-like plaza paved with cyan flagstones. The space was empty except for a tall, aloof man who seemed almost like a projection. Without any warmth, the man began to explain aloud, as if reciting a lesson to himself. The great creation palm possesses the power of creation. As the man spoke, his body grew transparent, and the intricate paths of Do Qi circulation through the meridians appeared before Xiao Kun's eyes. The man repeated the movements, and Xiao Kun memorized every key point. When the exposition ended, the man stopped moving, but Xiao Kun couldn't leave. Assuming there were further conditions, he began to practice. Awkward at first, he forced Do Qi to flow along the route he'd just learned. The strain on his internal reserves was severe. A black halo appeared in front of his palm, a void-like disk that emitted a massive gravitational pull. It began stripping the cyan flagstones from the plaza floor, which slid into the halo and vanished. The sight unnerved him but spurred him on. He poured in more do-chi, and the halo's gravity increased. It swelled several times in size, sweeping past a large rock and annihilating it utterly. He practiced until his do-chi was completely exhausted and stopped only because he had nothing left to pour. No sooner had he resolved to recover his reserves when his do-chi was instantly replenished. Startled, he realized the space allowed simulated execution. The do-chi he spent there would restore automatically. This meant he could practice continuously without real-world depletion. Before he could take full advantage of that, the aloof man spoke again. "When you executed the do technique just now, you should have been able to." The man pointed out subtle flaws in Xiao Kun's delivery, timing issues, minor circulation inefficiencies. Xiao Kun was delighted. The simulated training area not only refilled his do-chi, but also provided real-time feedback. With unlimited practice runs and precise corrections, he advanced far faster than he would have in a normal session. He sensed that the legacy space would only let him leave once he truly mastered the technique, so he threw himself into it. 5 days passed inside the legacy space. "Great creation, palm," Xiao Kun shouted, and once again a controllable black halo sprang from his palm. Its size fluctuated exactly as he intended. He grinned wide. Finally, perfect execution. The mastery felt natural. The great creation palm moved as if responding to his will. No sooner had he celebrated this breakthrough than the world around him shifted. He found himself back in the cave, sitting exactly where he had started. He looked toward the cave mouth and was stunned to see that, for all he had done, almost no time had passed outside. Xiao Kun hadn't expected a system heaven-ranked do skills legacy to be so miraculous. He sat in the quiet cave, heartbeat still racing, a new technique now living inside him. Chapter 167, Significant Progress. Although Xiao Kun felt he had spent 5 days in the legacy space, the dust in the cave and the angle of the sunlight outside told him that almost no time had passed in the outside world. He let out a relieved breath. After all, he had only set up a few simple warnings around the cave. Staying inside for 5 days without being prepared would have been dangerous. He could use the great creation palm in the legacy space as easily as moving his arm, but he had never truly used it in the real world. Thinking that, Xiao Kun flashed out of the cave. "Great creation palm." He gathered his do-chi and let out a silent shout. A sensation both familiar and strange surged through him. Familiar because he'd used the skill countless times in the legacy space, strange because this was the first time he was using it in reality. After his do-chi traversed his refined meridian path, a black halo formed in front of his palm. Its gravity was immense. Trees and boulders on the mountain were drawn toward it, then dissolved into nothingness. After a short time, he felt the same perfection he'd known in the legacy space and stopped, satisfied. In the distance, 2 graceful figures watched him with concern, Yun and Ya Fei, drawn over by the commotion. He blinked and appeared before them, smiling as he explained that this was the heaven-ranked do skill he'd just learned, the Great Creation Palm. "A heaven-ranked do skill!" Yun and Ya Fei exclaimed. "No wonder it's so powerful. We felt it shake us from way over there." After a brief conversation, the 2 women returned to their spots and resumed practice. Xiao Kun, whose spirit was a little drained from his intense days in the legacy space, didn't continue cultivating. Instead, he relaxed by watching them train. But as he watched, a frown crossed his face. Their progress was slow. Earth-ranked do techniques were difficult to cultivate, and the 2 of them were advancing at a crawl. Yun couldn't practice 3,000 lightning movement yet. It required special lightning weather, so she was training a wind attribute Earth-rank offensive technique unique to the Cloud Mist sect. Ya Fei was working on the low-level Earth-rank heaven-burning palm that Xiao Kun had given her. He quickly formed hand seals, and 8 identical figures rose beside him. After his breakthrough to Do Venerate, Xiao Kun could now use the secret shape-shifting illusion technique to create 8 clones with his same strength. To speed up Yun and Ya Fei's mastery of their new techniques, He assigned a clone to each of them for one-on-one guidance. He also had plans to learn 3,000 lightning movement and the 3,000 lightning illusion body to broaden his combat abilities. His only existing movement skill, shape-shifting illusion, relied on space shuttle, and that method would no longer work well against Du Venerates. Manipulating space at that level caused spatial fluctuations that ruined surprise. Cultivating 3,000 lightning movement required wind lightning power, which could only be gathered by standing on a mountain peak during lightning weather and relying on enough strength to withstand it. He had the strength. The weather, he checked, would turn 3 days from now. He arranged for his remaining clones to familiarize themselves with the other Du techniques he knew, then settled into quiet cultivation while he waited for the storm. Time crawled by until the weather changed. On the third day, the noon sky grew dark and thunder rolled in the distance. Xiao Kun flashed to the highest nearby peak and poured out his soul power, searching the charged clouds for any trace of wind lightning power. For a time, there was nothing. The lightning was only beginning to gather. An hour later, the sky erupted. Wind howled, lightning stabbed through clouds, and thunder rolled like drums. Still, he found no concentrated wind lightning to draw from. Down by the swamp, however, this storm was precisely the right condition for 3,000 lightning movement. Yun, who already had the movement scroll, seized the opportunity and began to cultivate. When she opened the scroll, the wind lightning power within flared and formed a heaven-piercing pillar that shot toward the storm-tossed sky. The pillar was enormous, visible from miles away. The wind lightning seemed to have a will of its own, trying to flee with the thunder's power, only to be forcibly suppressed by the scroll's invisible barrier. That attempt to escape altered the lightning in an unusual way. Xiao Kun, watching closely, felt a surge of excitement. 2 wisps of wind lightning power had formed within the storm, one more than he'd hoped for. He moved without hesitation, appearing near the wisps and concentrating. The space around them solidified, holding the 2 slender silver beams frozen in the air. He retrieved 2 specialized scrolls, cast restriction seals, and trapped the wind lightning inside them. That accomplished what he had come for. He glanced down and saw Yun awkwardly practicing 3,000 lightning movement in the swamp. He appeared beside her and asked how to cultivate it. Without hesitation, she tapped his forehead and transferred the technique's method into his mind. After he absorbed the instructions, he withdrew to a quiet spot and began to draw on the wind lightning power he had secured. Then he and Yun practiced the movement there in the swamp. Xiao Kun and his clones dashed about with Yun, splashing mud and water everywhere in a lively, chaotic training scene. One of the clones stayed behind to instruct Yafei. 3 weeks later, sensing unusual activity within Jianan Academy, Xiao Kun ended that stretch of cultivation. In that short month, the 3 of them had made substantial gains. Xiao Kun had mastered the Great Creation Palm and, with the help of his clones, had become proficient in 3,000 lightning movement. He considered the 3,000 lightning illusion body and decided not to bother with it. It was essentially a cloning-based technique, and he already had 8 clones. Yun and Yafei benefited greatly as well. With Xiao Kun's assistance, Yun refined her wind lightning eagle wings and became adept at 3,000 lightning movement. Yafei also made solid progress under the guidance she'd received, and the heaven-burning palm he'd given her began to take root in her cultivation. Chapter 168, Sky-Burning Chi Refining Tower. The 3,000 lightning illusion body had finally reached its initial stage, allowing him to summon a soul clone that had no real strength of its own. Yafei's guidance not only completed the conversion of the heaven-grade cultivation method, but also let her break through to the Dohuang rank. After refining the Wind Thunder Tiger wings, she had also skillfully mastered a low-grade Earth-rank Sky-Burning Palm. Over the past month, Medusa had reappeared for 2 weeks and, seeing everyone's diligence, had joined their cultivation group, currently staying in human form. When Xiao Kun noticed the fallen heart flame in Jianan Academy beginning to stir and remembered that today was the day to seize the strange fire, he immediately called Yun, Yafei, and Medusa. The four of them slipped through a spatial passage and emerged 100 miles outside the inner academy. From there, they manifested Do-Chi wings and transformed into streaks of light, racing toward the sky-burning Chi refining tower where the fallen heart flame had been sealed. Because the riot of the fallen heart flame had already drawn out every able expert in the inner academy, except those in seclusion, Xiao Kun's group encountered no resistance and arrived at the tower without trouble. Their bold arrival drew the attention of everyone gathered, including Grand Elder Suqian and the other inner academy elders. Suqian watched them approach, 1 man and 3 women, an odd combination. He suspected they had come for the flame. Coupled with their calm bearing, Suqian knew they were not to be taken lightly. Before he could question them, a familiar shout rang out. "Third brother!" Suqian turned to see Xiao Yan, the academy's newly rising star, spread his purple wings and fly toward the four. That relieved many of the watching elders. If Xiao Yan recognized them, they were likely not enemies. From their auras, the newcomers were at least Do Kings, and anyone bold enough to barge into the inner academy at this time was probably Do Huang or higher. Suqian relaxed but remained vigilant. A thunderous collision suddenly reverberated from the tower, stealing everyone's focus. "All elders, listen to my command. Form the 1,000-layer sealing array and reseal the fallen heart flame." Suqian barked, his voice urgent. The old seal was failing. Xiao Yan had already flown up to meet Xiao Kun and quickly introduced Medusa. Xiao Kun's arrival visibly eased Xiao Yan. When he caught sight of Medusa's alluring presence and knew Xiao Kun never acted without cause, he gave him a private thumbs up. Xiao Kun returned a faint smile. Their greetings finished, all eyes turned back to the sky-burning Chi refining tower. Inside, magma pillars the thickness of tree trunks pounded against the dark energy barrier sealing the tower's top, sending out a continuous, deafening roar. Suddenly, as if fed up with slow effort, a gigantic transparent python formed from the magma itself. It reared up with a monstrous head that froze the onlookers. "Is that the strange fire?" Medusa breathed. She had recognized the type, one that could threaten her very soul, and her voice trembled. "It moves like a living demonic beast. Doesn't Xiao Kun have that same kind of flame?" "Except for the top 3 on the strange fire ranking, other strange fires can appear in multiples," someone nearby explained. "The fallen heart flame is ranked 14th. Multiple instances of it aren't surprising." The 3 women exchanged looks and nodded. A rank 14 flame producing a python-shaped manifestation with power comparable to a dozong and with temperatures that warped space was terrifying. If the 14th ranked flame was so fierce, how devastating must the top 13 be? The fallen heart flame, however, was far from idle. After staring at the barrier that had confined it for years, it emitted a piercing, keening shriek. The sound struck the energy shield like a physical blow, sending ripples through it with an impact comparable to a Do Huang's sound-based Do technique. Then the beast opened its massive maw and spat a ball of invisible flame at the tower's top. Temperature spiked around the refining tower. Only Xiao Kun remained unaffected outright. Ya Fei and the others hastily wrapped their bodies in Do Chi to shield themselves. The invisible heat scorched and warped the space in its path. It moved relatively slowly, taking several seconds to meet the black barrier, but when it struck, there was no loud boom. Instead, it hissed like red-hot metal dropping into oil. The sound alone told everyone the barrier's days were numbered. More than 20 Inner Academy elders, fingers flashing through intricate hand seals, pushed to reinforce the seal. The 1,000-layer sealing array began to reform at speed, a new energy shield knitting itself into place. The fallen heart flame sensed the new threat and, with a furious glint in its pale triangular eyes, unleashed a far greater torrent of invisible flame. Whatever price it had to pay, it poured everything into its assault. The black barrier began to melt away visibly. What followed was a race against time. On one side stood the Jianan Academy elders, led by Suqian, frantically weaving sealing techniques. On the other, the fallen heart flame advanced relentlessly. Students and onlookers stared, prayers whispered under their breath, desperate that the elders' seals would hold. Xiao Yan's heart thudded with the tense stalemate, but he did not fear the flame breaking free. With Xiao Kun present, his powerful backing visible, Xiao Yan secretly hoped the seal might finally give way. If the fallen heart flame escaped now, there would be the chance for them to subdue it legitimately and claim the strange fire for the academy. Chapter 169, Hanfeng arrives. The fallen heart flame's sudden surge in aura caused the invisible flames it emitted to multiply, sending the temperature soaring. Students of Jianan Academy watching from a distance were soaked in sweat by the scorching heat, and they gained a new understanding of the flame's power. Many could not help but worry for the inner academy's elders. Around the sky-burning Qi refining tower, 24 or so elders had formed a sealing formation. Working their seals with rapid hand movements, they had to channel ever more Du Qi to resist the blistering heat. Between maintaining the seals and battling the heat, even Do King-level elders began to grow pale from depletion. Still, there was some comfort. Just as their Do Qi neared exhaustion, a gigantic energy barrier large enough to envelop the entire refining tower was almost complete. At the same time, the black barrier that had trapped the fallen heart flame grew increasingly transparent, as if ready to shatter. Su Qian and the others, along with the trapped flame, were racing against time. Perhaps fate toyed with them. The transparent barrier finally split with a faint cracking sound and vanished. The fallen heart flame was about to roar in triumph when, formation complete, Su Qian bellowed. Under the fallen heart flame's mournful stare, a new energy barrier snapped into place around the sky-burning Qi refining tower. The flame screamed, but after that thunderous roar, it suddenly dimmed. Its aura, having surged, leaked away and left it listless. The flames along its body went faint. Everyone exhaled in relief. Sensing the fallen heart flame's weakened state, many relaxed. But Su Yan, seeing the pale faces of his fellow elders, would not be careless. Quickly consume medicinal pills and recover. We must complete the next step of the seal as soon as possible. This formation won't hold the fallen heart flame for long at this strength. Yes, the elders answered, producing their pills and settling cross-legged to restore their Do Qi. Surprisingly, the fallen heart flame did not take advantage of their recovery. Instead, it remained quiet, as if preparing something. The respite allowed Su Qian's team to recover more securely. Xiao Yan watched anxiously. Seeing the fallen heart flame resealed, he fretted aloud, "What about my heavenly flame? Will it be safe?" "Don't worry. The fallen heart flame isn't easy to truly seal, and the Black Corner region won't miss this chance to get involved," Xiao Kun, familiar with the original events, reassured him. Trusting Xiao Kun, Xiao Yan relaxed and turned his attention back to those recovering beside the refining tower. Before long, Xiao Kun spotted several auras approaching from the outer academy. They weren't particularly strong, reinforcements from the outer academy. As the black specks in the sky drew nearer, the leading figure's laugh carried clearly. "Elder Su, gathering manpower took some time. We aren't too late, are we?" the man called out. Relief spread across Su Qian's face. "Hu Gan, perfect timing. Have the outer academy people sustain the barrier first. Once our inner academy elders recover, we'll complete the next step of the seal." Su Qian feared that if the fallen heart flame struck again with another massive aura surge, the newly formed, still unstable barrier might not last. He ordered the outer academy personnel, whose reserves of Do Qi were more plentiful, to hold the barrier steady, giving the recovering inner elders time to respond. Understood. Dozens of Do Ling experts from the outer academy leaped to the treetops around the refining tower and poured pillars of multicolored Do Qi into the energy barrier, stabilizing it. The inner elders devoted themselves to recovery, but the calm didn't last. Fueled by the subterranean magma's abundant fire attribute energy, the fallen heart flame recovered faster than expected. Without warning, it burst forward like a meteor, slamming into the barrier with an ear-splitting crash. The impact sent muffled groans through the outer academy Lings holding the barrier. Several sustained injuries from the blow. Alarmed, the inner academy elders, who had only partially recovered, stopped cultivating and reassembled the formation around the sky-burning Qi refining tower. Streams of Do Qi reinforced the barrier. Because so many outer academy instructors were assisting, some Du King elders of the inner academy were freed to begin the next stage of the seal under Su Qian's direction. Confident in their plan, Su Qian didn't call on Xiao Kun and his group for help. Despite the fierce energy fluctuations, after a while, the elders' faces turned pale again, and the fallen heart flame's aura weakened. Spectators were stunned. One fallen heart flame had nearly crippled the many elders they'd long admired. The new portion of the seal the freed elders were constructing was half finished, and Suqian allowed himself a small measure of hope. Then more figures shot over from the distance, their arrival announced with a loud laugh. If not for the Heavenly Flame rampage, I would never have guessed Jianan Academy has been hiding a rare Heavenly Flame all these years. Your hiding skills are impressive. They drew nearer, and the leader's eyes widened at the sight inside the sky-burning Qi refining tower, a massive transparent fire python that seemed almost sentient. He hadn't expected the Heavenly Flame to have intelligence or to behave like a demonic beast. While he was shocked, delight shone in his heart. Devouring such a powerful Heavenly Flame would grant tremendous energy and advancement. Xiao Kun and the others turned at the voice and recognized the speaker. A middle-aged man in alchemist robes, his thin lips setting a sharp expression. "Who is it?" "Oh, Medicine Emperor Han Feng," Xiao Kun murmured. Han Feng's mocking words darkened Suqian's face immediately. He could not help but sneer. Chapter 170, Seeing the Eight Gates Sect Master Again. Facing Suqian's taunt, Han Feng's expression did not change. He kept smiling and said, "Not at all. Medicine Emperor is just a jocular title among friends. I came mostly because of the strange fire you've imprisoned. As an alchemist, I can't stand to see a long-sought strange fire treated so unjustly." The people from Jianan Academy were stunned, and even the contingent from the Black Corner region behind Han Feng exchanged looks. Which expert here didn't have several lives to their name? Han Feng was using an imprisonment excuse to cause a scene, and what he claimed to be imprisoned wasn't even a person. The reason sounded grandiose and brazen. His chutzpah left everyone silently admiring his nerve. Xiao Kun, standing nearby, couldn't help but smile inwardly. Han Feng was one of the targets of this trip. He hadn't expected the man to be so shameless. Xiao Kun's decision to target Han Feng was deliberate. Han Feng possessed an incomplete manual of the burning technique and had been unbelievably lucky to find a strange fire, the Fallen Heart Flame, ranked 15th on the strange fire list. Compared with Xiao Yan, Han Feng was already an enemy in Xiao Kun's eyes, so stealing his fire carried no qualms. It was an irresistible temptation. What sort of critical hit could he land this time? Suqian and the others were left speechless by Han Feng's audacity. Their looks grew colder and more disdainful. Then, just as Han Feng softened his tone to suggest a peaceful resolution, the burly Eight Gates sect master standing behind him suddenly changed expression. He stepped forward and urgently whispered into Han Feng's ear. The Eight Gates sect master had been watching the crowd and had just spotted Xiao Kun and his companions. Two women in that group had previously displayed Do King-level power, the sort of force that could upset their plans. They had only prepared for one Do King here, Suqian. If Xiao Kun and his group sided with Jianan Academy, everything would go awry. It was especially suspicious because Xiao Yan, standing with them, wore the inner academy robes of Jianan Academy, enough to suggest a connection. If that were true, the reward Han Feng offered wouldn't be worth their lives, and they would have to withdraw. He hurried to tell Han Feng, hoping his employer would explain the stranger's presence. Han Feng's carefree composure vanished. He shifted his gaze from Suqian to Xiao Kun and his group. The change in both men's attitudes drew the attention of everyone present. Curiosity surged. Who were these people who could make the laughing Han Feng suddenly so serious? Putting his smile back on, Han Feng cupped his fists and called across the way. "I am Han Feng. May I ask what relationship you have with Jianan Academy? Have you come for the strange fire?" Seeing the Eight Gates sect master, Xiao Kun understood the situation at once. As the group leader, he patted Xiao Yan's shoulder and answered calmly, "My younger brother is a student of Jianan Academy. As for the strange fire, I don't like taking things from others." Xiao Kun wasn't in a hurry to confront Han Feng. If Han Feng kept the academy busy, the imprisoned strange fire might slip away, and only then could Xiao Kun seize it legitimately. Han Feng heard the sarcasm in Xiao Kun's voice and knew he was not well regarded, but he thought of the strange fire he had discovered and of breaking through to Do King with its power. He forced his smile and continued, "You're right to be cautious. May I ask for your assistance?" "My aid isn't needed by Jianan Academy," Xiao Kun replied coolly, "but if it's truly necessary, I'll consider it for the sake of my fourth brother. My main purpose here is to protect him." Xiao Kun's reference to Jianan Academy's other hidden Do King experts made Han Feng retreat from pressing further. Han Feng glanced toward Su Qian, whose curiosity had clearly been piqued. The sight of Xiao Yan's brother, roughly Xiao Yan's age but already a Do King, intrigued him. There had to be some precious artifact concealing his cultivation, otherwise he wouldn't pass as an ordinary person. Xiao Yan came from the distant Jiama Empire, a place where Do Kings were rare. How had so many once-in-a-century talents emerged at once? Su Qian stepped forward, returning the gesture. "I am Su Qian, Grand Elder of Jianan Academy. May I know your name?" "Xiao Kun, of the Xiao family from the Jiama Empire." "So it's little brother Xiao Kun. I appreciate your offer, but with our concealed experts present, Jianan Academy does not need outside help." If there's a real need, say the word." Su Qian's tone was polite but firm. Meeting Xiao Kun and his companions for the first time, he judged that Jianan Academy's hidden power was enough to handle Han Feng's party. For that reason, he declined the assistance, though he kept the door open if things turned dire. The mention of the Jiama Empire and the Xiao family registered with everyone, but none had any clear impression. The Jiama Empire had long kept to itself, its power was limited, and its affairs little known. Even after a year since Xiao Kun's rampage at the Cloud Mist sect, the Xiao family's reputation hadn't spread to this place. That only added to the crowd's puzzlement. Relieved, Han Feng let out a genuine smile. Xiao Kun's refusal to intervene removed a major worry. If he handled things carefully, Jianan Academy wouldn't reveal its full strength, and he still had a good chance of obtaining the strange fire. Chapter 171. Xian. Thinking of everything that had happened, Han Feng's gaze grew fiercely aggressive. He felt both relieved and enraged at Great Elder Su Qian's earlier arrogant dismissal of Xiao Kun. "Great Elder Su Qian," he called out, "I hope you can keep that confidence forever." Su Qian swept a cool, appraising look over Han Feng's group, then laughed with disdain. "Do you really think you can take the heavenly flame from me with only these Do Huang experts?" He flicked a hand, and space trembled. "As for you, Han Feng, I of course have other plans. Mr. Gold and Mr. Silver, show yourselves and meet your opponents." At his command, a spatial ripple appeared, and two figures, one robed in gold, the other in silver, materialized as if they had teleported into the clearing. "Han Feng, since you asked us to act, your promised reward will not be shorted," the gold-robed figure said. "Don't worry, once this is resolved, you'll get every bit of it." The arrival of the two men sent the faces from Jianan Academy paling. They recognized them immediately, Mr. Gold and Mr. Silver, the two highest-ranked fighters on the Black Corner region's strong ranking, each a Peak Du Huang in his own right. That alone would be impressive, but the two were twins, raised together, sharing the same cultivation methods and Do techniques. When they fought side by side, their coordination could even match a novice Du Zong. With those two intervening, Jianan Academy's advantage, Su Qian's Dozong status, was significantly blunted. No wonder their expressions had turned grave. Xiao Kun peered curiously at the newcomers. Two identical white-haired, white-bearded men, one in gold, one in silver. Yafei, who was equally intrigued, asked, "Who are they, and why does Jianan Academy treat them like that?" Xiao Kun explained the brothers' reputation and background to his companions. Yunyun sighed in admiration. Even Xiao Kun nodded. This was the first time he'd seen such a coordinated way of fighting above one's level. While they talked, tensions between Jianan Academy and Han Feng's forces escalated. Neither side would yield. "Su Qian, are you really unwilling to hand over the heavenly flame?" Han Feng shouted. Su Qian's expression had been unreadable, but now it snapped. He unleashed a broad ribbon of fighting qi that tore through the air toward Han Feng. Han Feng, only a Peak Do Huang, dared not test his luck against a Do Zong. He gathered the raging fighting qi within him and spat out a vast sea-blue flame to meet Su Qian's attack. Bang! The two energies collided with thunderous force, forcing many nearby to step back. Suqian's regard for Han Feng rose. He had resisted far better than expected, but he didn't relent. Instead, he surged forward. "You'll face us today," Han Feng shouted. At that moment, Mr. Gold and Mr. Silver, whom Han Feng had specifically hired, moved to intercept. Paid to do a job, they flashed in front of Suqian and blocked his path, fists slamming against his palm with surprising parity. For a moment, the three of them blurred into a dance of afterimages as the clash of forces rang out. Seeing Suqian engaged by Gold and Silver, Han Feng seized the opportunity and turned his attention to the rest of the Jianan Academy forces, led by Hu Gan. "You all hold down the others," he called to his Black Corner region allies. "I'll go destroy the seal." The two sides exploded into a widespread battle, and Han Feng made for the unguarded sky-burning Qi refining tower. Because Jianan Academy had many people, but their overall strength was weaker, it usually took 3 or 4 Do King elders to restrain a single Do Huang from the Black Corner region. Overall, the Black Corner region still held the advantage, so Han Feng felt confident heading for the tower. He didn't expect Hu Gan to suddenly tear through the air after him. Hu Gan, also a peak Do Huang, had diverted several Do King elders who had been restraining other opponents so he could free himself and pursue Han Feng. The move both increased the pressure on Jianan Academy's remaining elders and showed how determined Hu Gan was to stop him. Han Feng cursed inwardly at the discovery. He had underestimated Hu Gan's resolve. With no choice, Han Feng turned to meet Hu Gan. Both were at the peak Do Huang level, but Han Feng, wielding the heavenly flame, felt almost unrivaled among Do Huangs. The two engaged immediately. Apart from Xiao Kun and his group, no one in the sky stood idly by. Dozens of figures streaked and crossed, their clashes sending explosive booms through the air. Down below, students and teachers of Jianan Academy, who were under the Do King rank, watched the fierce aerial battles with anxiety. Some wanted to help, but the combatants were barely visible at that height. Any attempt to intervene would only be a burden. Even Xiao Yan, seeing many familiar elders barely holding on, felt the urge to leap into the fray. But thinking of the heavenly flame, he swallowed the impulse. The long commotion at the sky-burning Qi refining tower finally drew other students out of seclusion. Among them, one figure was particularly conspicuous, a purple-clad presence with fighting Qi wings, unmistakably a Do King. She swept a glance across the crowd, and having noticed Xiao Yan, flew straight toward them. When she arrived, the onlookers realized she was a petite girl no older than 10, with a purple ponytail and a delicate face, yet her expression was edged with panic. The sudden assault on Jianan Academy weighed heavily on her. Ziyan's small frame, yet her status as a Do King, astonished Yun and the others who had previously thought Xiao Kun the most remarkable genius they had seen. "Xiao Yan, what's going on?" Ziyan's childlike voice rang out as she landed in front of the crowd. She swept her eyes over Xiao Kun and his companions and demanded, "Who are these people?" Chapter 172, Joining the Battle. "This is my third brother, Xiao Kun, and some of my sisters-in-law, Ya Fei," Xiao Yan introduced one by one. "This is Ziyan, a friend I met at the Inner Academy." Everyone exchanged polite greetings and slowly got acquainted. After the cordial introductions, Medusa's expression tightened a little. Xiao Yan had just introduced her as a sister-in-law. She wanted to protest, but seeing that Xiao Kun had treated her kindly so far, she couldn't bear to embarrass him in front of everyone and swallowed the rebuttal. She didn't realize how telling that restraint was. If not for the place Xiao Kun had already taken in her heart, her old domineering temper would never have allowed her to hold back. Xiao Yan then explained the fighting up ahead to Ziyan. "Then why didn't you go help?" Ziyan asked bluntly. Her thinking was simple. Xiao Yan was allied with Jianan Academy. Xiao Kun was allied with Xiao Yan. Therefore, Xiao Kun must be allied with Jianan Academy and should have gone to help. "Elder Suqian refused our assistance," Xiao Yan replied. "Besides, the situation hasn't reached the point where we must intervene." Ziyan tilted her small head and thought for a while before nodding. "So we just wait here, right?" Yes," Xiao Yan answered. Out of habit, Ziyan dug a pill out of her storage ring, one Xiao Yan had refined earlier, popped it into her mouth, chewed it roughly, and swallowed. The sight caught Xiao Kun's eye and reminded him of the Ziyan in the original story. simple, gluttonous, and forever childlike. He remembered, too, that although she was actually decades old, a transformation grass had left her stuck in a child's body. A transformation pill would make her appear like a mature woman. Xian had been unlucky. Her father, the Dragon Emperor of the Void Ancient Dragon Clan, had come near Jianan Academy in search of the Ancient Emperor Cave, but had been captured by the Tuoshe Ancient Emperor and forced to serve as a gatekeeper. From then on, Xian hid and fled among demonic beasts just to survive until she accidentally ate a transformation grass and took on a child's form, after which Suqian found and brought her to Jianan Academy. Moved by pity, and by the memory of Xian's fondness for medicinal pills, Xiao Kun produced 5 rank 6 medicinal pills from his ring. Xian, who had been watching the distant battle, turned at once. A strange light lit her big, dark eyes. She swallowed hard, her neck bobbing with desire. Xian, Xiao Kun said with a grin, "This is our first meeting, and since you like medicinal pills so much, take these 5. Xian could hardly believe her ears. After assuring herself he wasn't joking, and comforted by the sense that they were now friends, she snatched the pills and shoved one into her mouth. The burst of energy made a satisfied smile spread across her face, and she looked at Xiao Kun with new warmth. Suqian had been stingy with rank 6 pills. Those Xiao Kun had given her were far superior to the ingredients she'd eaten before. "Thank you, Xiao Kun. You're so nice. Even better than Xiao Yan," she gushed. "If you want more later, just ask," Xiao Kun replied, smiling. The others chuckled. To them, Xian was a child, and it seemed natural that Xiao Kun would spoil someone so cute. Time crept by. Half an hour later, the aerial battle still showed no clear victor. Most forces in the Black Corner region didn't want to fully provoke the might of Jianan Academy and were holding back. So too did Jianan's enemies avoid overcommitting. The Fallen Heart Flame, however, seized a rare opening. Quietly and carefully, it began tearing through the black barrier Suqian and the others had erected. Bit by bit, the once pitch-black shield thinned until it became almost transparent. At this rate, it would be free again in a few minutes. Xiao Kun noticed the flame's subtle work and laughed. "Looks like things are about to get interesting." Indeed, Yunyun and the others agreed. They had been watching the Fallen Heart Flame too. Xian only cocked her head in confusion, not following the meaning. 2 minutes later, when it became clear the Fallen Heart Flame would soon break free, Xiao Kun flashed a playful smile and said to the women, "You've improved a lot. It's time you practiced your skills." "You said what?" Yunyun began. "There's no need to keep promises with those from the Black Corner region," Xiao Kun finished. That was all it took. Yunyun and Yafei brightened up, eager to join the fray. "Xiao Yan, Xian, you two must have wanted to go help for a while, right?" Yafei asked. "Of course, if you hadn't told me to wait, I'd have beaten those ugly-looking brutes until they cried," Xian barked, punching a tiny, determined fist. "All right, the 4 of you go," Xiao Kun ordered. In an instant, the 4 became streaks of colored light and shot toward the battlefield, where Jianan Academy was already starting to lose ground. Xiao Yan, Xian, and Yafei surged toward a red-robed Do Huang, Fan Lao of the Blood Sect. Xiao Yan had marked Fan Lao as a target. In this reality, he had killed Fan Lao's son to seize a fragment of a map, and now he saw a chance to eliminate future trouble. Facing a Do Huang, Xiao Yan did not hold back. He wrapped his body in the green heavenly flame that countered Fan Lao's blood flame techniques. When Fan Lao saw the green figure, his face went pale with recognition. The color matched the image he had extracted from his son's blood. "You," Fan Lao roared, rage overtaking the caution that had come from being surrounded. He lunged at Xiao Yan without restraint. Yafei, the strongest among them, leapt forward to intercept. Sky-burning palm! She thrust out a jade-like hand, unleashing a massive flame palm several meters across that slammed into Fan Lao. Meanwhile, Yunyun dashed toward the only Dozong-level confrontation still raging, Suqian against the gold and silver elders. That left only Xiao Kun and Medusa watching the rest of the battlefield. Medusa felt a prick of discomfort. Everyone else had gone to help, and she didn't want to be the only one standing aside. Between the strange flutter in her chest and the kindness Xiao Kun had shown her, she decided it was time to test that sharp rank 8 weapon of hers in earnest. Chapter 173, crushing the opposition. Just as Medusa was still thinking, everything changed the moment Yun, Yafei, and their group entered the fray. The stalemate on the battlefield broke instantly. The first to feel the impact wasn't Fan Lao, who was already surrounded by 5 or 6 opponents. His attacker's strongest was only the 1-star Dohuang Yafei, so he could still hold for the moment. The quickest collapse happened where Su Qian had been locked with the gold and silver elders. With Yun's arrival, it became 2 Dozong against 2 Dohuang, a mismatch that was immediately obvious. Those like the gold and silver elders, who relied on body integration Do techniques, feared speed above all. Yun's velocity robbed them of the time needed to react, coordinate, and bring out their full Daozong power. To finish the fight quickly, Yun, a true Duzong, unfolded the wind-lightning eagle wings as she entered, multiplying her speed several times over. The cyan-purple wings, almost solid in appearance, shimmered with flickers of lightning and eddies of wind when they stirred, a striking sight. As she moved, her majestic Duzong aura rolled outward, setting off a wave of astonishment. The Jianan Academy forces roared with renewed hope at the arrival of such a powerful ally, their spirits soaring. On the other side, the faces of the Black Corner region contingent fell. They knew that with this Dozong added to Xiao Kun's side, their mission was effectively lost, and their priority should shift to a safe withdrawal. The 8-Gate Sect Master, aware that more Dozong might be present among Xiao Kun's group, quietly slid toward the rear where an escape would be easier. Damn them! They actually attacked! Untrustworthy! Han Feng, locked with Hugan, spat angrily, already reading the situation as lost. Seeing their advantage slip, the Black Corner fighters pulled back and the overall danger on the battlefield visibly dropped. The gold and silver elders, who had been deadlocked with Su Qian, prepared to retreat as soon as Yun neared. Su Qian refused to let them go, however. Resentful at being dragged into their earlier harassment, he tightened his hold and entwined them, determined not to let them flee. Su Qian, do you really want to go all the way? One of them warned. Haha, it's been a long time since I've had a real spar with you two. I'm not letting go yet. Keep me company a while longer. Su Qian shot back. You'll regret this, the elders snarled. They cursed Xiao Kun and his allies as untrustworthy for interfering, too late for reproach, but the anger was real. They began frantically searching for Yun's approach, trying to brace for her attack. It was futile. Closing the last 100 meters in a blink, Yun left only the afterimage of the 3,000 lightning movement. In the next instant, she was behind the gold and silver elders, catching them completely off guard. They never had time to activate defensive Do techniques, managing only to hurriedly gather Do Qi around themselves in a desperate bid to soften the blow. Great Wind Hand Seal. A cold shout split the air. A massive cyan palm, several meters across, tore through the wind with unstoppable force and slammed the 2 men down like insects. The impact scattered debris and smoke. A deep, bottomless handprint marked the ground. For a long moment, there was no sign of movement. Yun's strike had crushed them utterly. The onlookers stared, stunned, only slowly piecing the scene together. The reality sunk in. Yun's Dozong power was absolute, perhaps even greater than Su Qian's. Su Qian himself, who had been preparing to coordinate with her, stood frozen until his senses returned. As a Duzong, he had only barely glimpsed her movements during the clash. It was a blow to his pride. If Yun fought him, he realized he might not last long. This was not someone to underestimate. He bowed slightly and introduced himself afresh to the newcomer. I am Su Qian, Grand Elder of the Inner Academy. May I ask who you are? Jiama Empire, Cloud Mist Sect. Yun, she answered. I'd heard of the Cloud Mist Sect's reputation, but I never expected a Dozong of your caliber to appear so young, Su Qian said, mind already turning to the implications. The Jiama Empire was changing in ways he would have to investigate when this was all over. Seeing their strongest defeated so decisively, the Black Corner forces abandoned their assaults and used every method at their disposal to break contact and form a defensive regroup. The exhausted elders of Jianan Academy likewise ended their individual battles, all except for one fight that remained unresolved. Fan Lao was still surrounded by 6 combatants, Xiao Yan, Yafei, Ziyan, and 3 Inner Academy elders. That encirclement, 1 Do Huang and 5 Do Kings, left Fan Lao in a desperate position with no avenue for escape. But Xiao Yan, a 7-star dueling, had opened his heavenly flame 3 mysterious transformations. For the moment, his strength rose close to a Do King's. Coupled with the Green Lotus Core Flame's natural suppression of Fan Lao, Xiao Yan posed a threat second only to Ya Fei. Flame-splitting tsunami ruler, Xiao Yan's strange flame had the most devastating effect against Fan Lao's blood-colored, yin-leaning Do Qi. With Ya Fei and the others creating the opening, Xiao Yan unleashed a low-rank earth flame technique, a 2-meter-wide cyan crescent of energy that slammed toward Fan Lao like a cannonball. The crescent radiated terrifying heat. It crashed into Fan Lao's blood-red defense with a sizzling roar, splitting it as if it were warm tallow. Under Fan Lao's horrified gaze, the energy tore into him. Boom! Sent flying several meters, Fan Lao finally showed his true form. The stench of burning filled the air, and a gruesome wound split his chest, nearly exposing his internal organs. He had been gravely injured. "Is this the terror of a strange flame?" the crowd muttered, astonished that a Doling could wound a Do Huang so severely with a single blow. Fan Lao, furious, hastily swallowed a healing medicinal pill as the onlookers talked. Anger churned beneath his calm exterior. This insult would not be forgotten. Chapter 174. The Fallen Heart Flame Escapes. Thinking of his son's death and his own injuries, Fan Lao stared at Xiao Yan with murderous hatred. But after sensing how badly he was hurt, the old man, clinging to the proverb, "Where there is life, there is hope," immediately began to consider retreat. Before he could act, Yun, seeing that Ya Fei and the others were still occupied, left an afterimage and appeared behind Fan Lao like a ghost, repeating the same trick she'd used before. Great Wind Hand Seal. Confronted by a Do technique, even the gold and silver elders could not withstand. The gravely injured Fan Lao was finished. His Dao dispersed as Yun's palm struck him into the earth. Yun then descended and retrieved Fan Lao's storage ring. Just as she was about to climb down into the pit where the gold and silver elders lay to take their rings as well, 2 figures suddenly burst out of the hole and rejoined the Black Corner region's team. It was the supposedly resurrected gold and silver elders. They had not actually died. Their auras were extremely weak, clearly showing they were severely wounded. In truth, the gold and silver elders were exactly the sort of survivors the Black Corner region was known for. Struck into the ground by Yun's powerful blow, they were left only gravely injured. They could have fought on for a short while, but that would have been a futile death. Instead, they took medicine, suppressed their qi, and feigned death well enough to fool Yun. When she left, they had waited underground for the first chance to escape. Sensing Yun return, they stopped pretending and slipped back to their team to reclaim some semblance of safety. Yun was briefly startled to find them alive, but she didn't dwell on it. After all, the 2 elders were strong enough to contend with a Duzong like Suqian. It was not surprising that her palm strike hadn't killed them outright. Ziyan, with her childlike nature, was quick to praise without hesitation. "Yun, you're amazing. You killed Fan Lao, who'd been bothering us for so long, with a single blow." "Thank you." Yun's battle-hardened expression softened into warmth at the praise. On the other side, Medusa, about to step forward, suddenly froze. Xiao Kun didn't notice the small movement. His attention was fixed on something else entirely. The fallen heart flame was about to emerge. The Jianan Academy members, watching the Black Corner threat dissolve so swiftly thanks to Yun and her group, regarded them far more favorably. Su Qian even stepped forward to offer thanks. As he moved to speak, a faint sound, like a barrier tearing, reached everyone's ears. The fallen heart flame, which had been silently gnawing at its prison, had finally broken free. Reactions split. Jianan Academy's faces fell. They had been prepared to reseal the fallen heart flame, but their strength was now badly depleted. They had no hope of defeating and resealing it. The Black Corner region's people, by contrast, broke into relieved smiles. This beast's appearance would force Jianan Academy to divert their combat strength, giving them an excellent chance to slip away. Even Han Feng, after a brief internal struggle, opted to run first. Xiao Kun's group was delighted. This was exactly what they'd been waiting for. Jie! Freed, the fallen heart flame gave a triumphant roar. Then its expression twisted into savage hatred. Its enormous white triangular eyes, huge enough to fill a house-sized head, glared furiously at the Jianan Academy members as if plotting revenge for years of imprisonment. The beast's aura radiated a terror surpassing even Suqian's, and many from Jianan Academy shivered. Suqian's face hardened. If the fallen heart flame was not stopped, it would wreak unimaginable havoc on Jianan Academy. As Grand Elder, he had to prevent that. Aside from Qianbai, who only appeared in moments of life-or-death crisis, the only available help lay with Xiao Kun's group. Suqian turned and cupped his fists toward Yunyun. "Your Excellency Yunyun, could you help us reseal that beast?" Yunyun hesitated only long enough to cast a look toward Xiao Kun. That glance made Suqian realize the person actually in command of their group was Xiao Yan's older brother. How could he have commanded Yunyun, a Dozong? The realization hit him harder when Xiao Kun suddenly flashed and appeared beside Yunyun. Suqian had not seen the movement, he only felt a subtle spatial distortion, as if Xiao Kun's position had been briefly anomalous. Instantaneous movement with such subtlety was the privilege of a Dozun. The thought shocked Suqian, and he stared at Xiao Kun as if he were a monster. He forced himself to shake his head. No matter what, Xiao Kun must have some special method. A man of Xiao Kun's age being a Dozun was unfathomable. Xiao Kun paid no heed to Suqian's surprise. He spoke calmly. "Elder Suqian, is controlling the fallen heart flame sufficient?" Suqian snapped back to focus, shot a glance at the menacing beast, and answered, "Yes, just control it." "All right, no problem. Thank you." After Suqian thanked him, he watched Xiao Kun with curiosity, wondering what method the young man intended to use. Would he rely on Dozong Yunyun, or did he have some other trump card? At that moment, the fallen heart flame had found its target. It flicked its massive tail hidden beneath the magma, and amid the flying crimson lava, its colossal body, several zhang in length, launched toward the Do King-level elders of Jianan Academy who hovered in the sky. "A beast! How dare you!" Suqian roared and rushed to intercept. Yunyun followed immediately. But as they flew forward, the fallen heart flame's form twisted in a strange, sudden motion. In an instant, it bypassed the two of them and surged toward Xiao Yan, Yafei, and their group, the very side where Xiao Kun, Yunyun, and Suqian had just been standing. Everyone's minds registered the same startling thought at once. This was a feint. The fallen heart flame was cunning enough to pretend to strike the Do King elders, only to change course and head straight for Xiao Yan's party. Chapter 175, Red Lotus Karma Fire. The fallen heart flame had reacted the way it did because, even trapped inside the barrier, it had felt the odd fire aura erupting from Xiao Yan and Han Feng as they fought. Strange fires had an instinctive urge to devour one another. Ever since it had noticed them, the fallen heart flame had been scheming to consume both. After breaking the seal and watching the scene for a moment, it decided Xiao Yan, only a Do Ling, would be the easier meal. But Yunyun and Suqian standing beside him were a real threat, which forced the fallen heart flame into a feint. Xiao Kun, however, was concealed by his breath-hiding jade pendant, so no one could sense his realm. When the fallen heart flame launched its sudden assault, Xiao Yan and Yafei relaxed visibly as Xiao Kun's figure materialized beside them. Both had been startled by the flame's ferocity. Only Ziyan, unaware of the full situation, wore a look of alarm on her delicate, jade-like face. Seeing Xiao Yan and the others not taking a fighting stance made her even more anxious. "What are you?" Ziyan started, but before she could finish, Xiao Kun stepped forward. He raised his right hand slightly and closed it in a gentle fist. "Seal," he said softly. The colossal charging body of the fallen heart flame was seized as if gripped by an invisible giant hand. It froze in midair, unable to move. A faint trace of fear flashed across the beast's huge, white, triangular eyes. Ziyan's unfinished words died on her lips as she stared at Xiao Kun in astonishment. In that instant, she realized why Xiao Yan and the others had been so confident. The sight stunned everyone from the Jianan Academy and the Black Corner region alike. Suqian, who had prepared to rush forward and help, finally understood that Xiao Kun hadn't used a hidden trick to subdue the flame. He'd relied on raw, terrifying power. The man had reached the Dozun realm. A hush fell around the badly damaged, sky-burning Qi refining tower. Many of the older, hardened onlookers could only gasp when they sensed the vast spatial force pressuring the fallen heart flame. The power of space, a dozun, they murmured. Xiao Kun, having located the core of the fallen heart flame, ignored its terrified glare and spoke again. The space around the giant flame shattered like glass, revealing a bottomless, pitch-black void. In an instant, the monster's dozens of meters-long serpent body dissolved under that overwhelming spatial might, leaving only a fist-sized sliver of white, the fallen heart flame's origin, carefully preserved at its original spot by Xiao Kun. After a few breaths, the space mended. Xiao Kun waved, and the origin floated into his hand. If the earlier spatial seal had hinted at the power of a dozun, the spatial annihilation that had just occurred made the crowd's bodies involuntarily shiver. Anyone imagining themselves caught in that force felt small as ants, utterly hopeless. As they looked at Xiao Kun's young, handsome face, awe mingled with fear. Suqian watched him summon the origin and felt a bitter smile. He understood instantly. Xiao Kun also coveted the fallen heart flame. The Academy was about to lose its unique cultivation tool, the sky-burning Qi refining tower, and with it the chance to keep the flame. Xiao Kun restrained the tiny fallen heart flame origin with a golden-green life essence heart flame, then casually tossed it to the dazed Xiao Yan while smiling. "This is the fallen heart flame I promised you. Keep it safe and refine it when you have time. With it, your strength will improve by leaps and bounds. You'll have a way to protect yourself in the future." The restrained flame shed what looked like resentful tears. It hadn't expected its own cunning to doom it. Xiao Kun seemed to remember one more thing and flicked a 6th-grade Earth Spirit pill to Xiao Yan. "Thank you for your concern, third brother. I will definitely become a powerful, independent expert as soon as possible." Xiao Yan blurted happily, excitement brightening his face. He had spent a year searching for a strange fire like this. Now it had landed in his hands, as if by fate. At that moment, a notification chimed inside Xiao Kun's mind. "Ding! You have gifted Xiao Yan one strange fire, Fallen Heart Flame. You have triggered the hundredfold critical compensation. You have obtained one strange fire, Red Lotus Karma Fire. All items have been stored in the system space. Please check." Xiao Kun felt a flicker of disappointment at being a hundredfold critical, but quickly recovered. Landing the Red Lotus Karma Fire, ranked 8th among strange fires, was excellent. He estimated that refining it would raise his cultivation by about 3 stars and push him to a 4-star dozun, a breakthrough that usually took years for ordinary cultivators. The thought brightened his mood. From a distance, Suqian breathed easier when he saw Xiao Kun hand the fallen heart flame to Xiao Yan. If Xiao Yan refined it, it wouldn't become an outsider's prize, something Suqian appreciated. He didn't dare demand the flame, though. Standing behind Xiao Yan was Xiao Kun, a dozun. The Jianan Academy, already weakened by Meng Tianqi's frequent absences, could not afford to offend a dozun. Besides, Xiao Kun had only captured the flame, not promised to seal it. Between that and his rescue of the Academy, there was nothing for Suqian to do but accept it. He stepped forward to offer his thanks. "Venerable Xiao Kun, thank you for intervening. You've subdued the fallen heart flame and saved Jianan Academy from disaster." "It's nothing," Xiao Kun replied simply. "I was only protecting my younger brother, Xiao Yan." Hearing this, Suqian felt his spirits lift. The close bond between the two brothers meant Jianan Academy now had ties to another dozun. If anything unforeseen happened later, they could call on Venerable Xiao Kun through Xiao Yan. After a few more polite exchanges, Xiao Kun noticed that Suqian had not raised the matter of the fallen heart flame. Admiring Suqian's magnanimity and unwilling to leave him worried when he already had a plan, Xiao Kun smiled and said, "Elder Suqian, taking the fallen heart flame was a bit abrupt. Trust me, within a week I'll restore the sky-burning Qi refining tower to full function." Suqian, who had been keeping a calm face, was momentarily stunned and then flushed with excitement. Nearly every inner academy rule revolved around that tower. Hearing it would be restored was wonderful news. He had a lot of faith in Xiao Kun. An expert like him had no reason to deceive. "What's your method?" he asked. "That's inconvenient to reveal now. Rest assured, you'll have a satisfactory answer within a week." "All right, I'll wait." Since Xiao Kun refused to elaborate, The sensible Su Qian did not press the matter. It was only a week, after all. Having settled that, Xiao Kun turned his gaze to the group from the Black Corner region who were beginning to leave. The people who had hoped to slip away instantly stiffened under his scrutiny. Wait! The expression on the Black Corner region members' faces went pale. Their bodies trembled. Given Xiao Kun's friendly relationship with Jianan Academy, being stopped like this could not bode well. Han Feng, the group's leader, stepped forward and asked cautiously, "Venerable Xiao Kun, since the Fallen Heart Flame matter is settled, we intended to return. Do you have any other instructions?" Xiao Kun ignored the question. He cast a brief look over the dozen or so Dohuang experts and then said coldly, "Leaders of the Earth Flame sect and the 8 gates, step forward." The 2 men advanced with visible nervousness. The rest of the Black Corner region party watched with curiosity and alarm. Had those 2 offended Xiao Kun? When they reached him, Xiao Kun raised his right hand in that emblematic pose. The sight of it sent the rest of the group, who had just seen the Fallen Heart Flame's fate, recoiling. The Earth Flame sect leader and the 8 Gates sect master began to shake. Space lock. At the command, Xiao Kun clenched his right hand. To everyone's surprise, the 2 sect leaders remained unaffected. It was Han Feng and the retreating members who were frozen in place, faces drained of color. The 2 leaders inhaled sharply as if spared at the last moment. Xiao Kun had no use for the minor Dohuangs, but he did need the Earth Flame and 8 Gates sects to help search for ingredients and treasures in the Black Corner region, so he spared them. Han Feng, on the other hand, who deeply hated Yao Lao, was not so fortunate. Space shredding. The space beside the Black Corner region group tore like glass. Moments later, only a dozen storage rings drifted in the air. Nothing else remained to show the rest had even been there. Only Han Feng still stood, fixed and staring in utter horror. Xiao Kun could not risk losing Han Feng's sea heart flame to the void, so he stepped forward like a ghost, gathered the floating storage rings, and placed his hand on Han Feng's forehead. He began to work the spirit-burning technique, forcibly extracting the sea heart flame. With Han Feng immobilized, he could show no outward reaction. A few breaths later, a deep blue fire blossomed in Xiao Kun's palm. It spread like seawater, rippling gently, clearly the sea heart flame. Xiao Kun examined the unfamiliar fire for a moment, then wrapped it in the golden-green life essence heart flame for safekeeping, intending to present it to Xiao Yan later. To be thorough, he then slapped Han Feng's lower abdomen with his golden right hand. Golden-green Do-Chi chains shot out and bound Han Feng's body. This was the Seal Do technique, the extreme sealing curse. Seeing Han Feng's aura so weak, Xiao Kun nodded with satisfaction. He felt safe handing the man over to Xiao Yan. Xiao Kun released the spatial lock. Grabbing Han Feng by the collar, he was ready to move, when Han Feng suddenly coughed up a mouthful of crimson blood. His features twisted in pain from the forced extraction, and then he fainted. Xiao Kun made no display of emotion. He removed a storage ring from Han Feng, then flashed away and reappeared before Xiao Yan, carrying the unconscious man. "I know Yao Lao has a long history with him. As thanks for the alchemist's legacy before, I'm handing Han Feng to you both to deal with," Xiao Kun said. Thank you, third brother. Yao Lao can finally settle a long-held score," Xiao Yan replied. As he spoke, the black storage ring containing Yao Lao began to heat on Xiao Yan's person. Sensing Yao Lao's agitation, Xiao Yan took Han Feng from Xiao Kun, intending to ask Yao Lao later what to do. Xiao Kun produced a golden sphere in his hand. Xiao Yan's eyes lit up. He recognized it at once. It was the Sea Heart Flame, ranked 15th among the strange fires. As long as he could refine it, his cultivation would surely leap. Seeing Xiao Yan's expression, Xiao Kun smiled and said, "You know what this is. Refine this one before you attempt the Fallen Heart Flame. The Sea Heart Flame is weaker and less risky." "Thank you, third brother. I will do as you say." Xiao Yan took the Sea Heart Flame, his excitement barely contained. In a single day, he had gained 2 strange fires he had long dreamed of, an emotion that was almost impossible to describe. Chapter 177, 3,000 Burning Flames. Just as Xiao Kun's excitement threatened to burst, the system's notification chimed inside his mind. "Ding, you have acquired a strange fire, Sea Heart Flame. Ding, you triggered the hundredfold critical compensation. Ding, You obtained a strange fire, 3,000 burning flame. All items have been stored in the system space. Please check and claim them. Another hundredfold critical compensation was triggered, and obtaining the 3,000 burning flame was a fortunate outcome. Though ranked only 9th on the strange fire list, consuming it granted an immortal physique called the 3,000 Starry Sky Physique. Once awakened, it would allow Xiao Kun to rapidly recover from almost all non-lethal injuries, even grievous wounds to the brain or heart, greatly improving his survivability and combat strength. A satisfied smile crossed his face as he surveyed the scene below. He turned to the Eight-Gate Sect Master and the Earth Flame Sect Leader, who stood frozen, trembling and unwilling to move. Both of you will wait in Peacetown outside Jianan Academy for 2 days. I'll have tasks for you then. Do not think of running or... We wouldn't dare. Both men blurted out in unison and then promptly promised to obey, secretly breathing huge sighs of relief. They understood what Xiao Kun's leniency really meant. If he had wanted them eliminated, he would not have given them the chance to leave. As leaders, they were sharp. They quickly deduced that Xiao Kun might try to bring them under his wing. Having a Dozun-class expert as backing would free them from the constant fear and chaos of the Black Corner region. They could expand their influence and even turn today's disaster into an opportunity. With the two of them escorted off, the Fallen Heart Flame incident finally wound down. The elders, instructors, and students of Jianan Academy relaxed at last. With no imminent threat, and in admiration of the expert who had just saved them, many young female students gaped up at Xiao Kun, who remained calm and composed in the sky. Meeting those admiring gazes, Xiao Kun stepped forward and inclined his head to Suqian. Elder Suqian, I'll need to stay in Jianan Academy for a few more days to repair the sky-burning Qi refining tower. No problem. I'll arrange rooms right away. Suqian did not rigidly enforce the rule against outsiders for such a valuable purpose. Setting aside Xiao Kun's strength, the tower alone was reason enough to keep him within the academy. Xiao Kun, make good use of your time and refine those strange fires, Suqian called. Understood, Xiao Kun replied. Suqian led Xiao Kun and his group to a modest 3-story attic, a vacant elder's residence that was decently furnished. After taking their rooms and bidding farewell to Suqian, Xiao Kun noticed an unexpected addition to their party, a lively little girl, Yan, who had trailed them out of curiosity. He guessed that Suqian had deliberately left her with them to build ties to the academy. That suited Xiao Kun. He had his own reasons for wanting to keep an eye on her. To avoid seeming abrupt and to build rapport, Xiao Kun asked Yan gently about her background. When her pitiful past came out, Yun and the others were moved. Maternal instincts took over, and they began doting on her. Medusa, perhaps because she too was a demonic beast, bonded with Yan particularly quickly. Evening fell. The women learned that Yan's childlike appearance was the result of accidentally consuming a transformation grass. Their eyes drifted toward Xiao Kun. Given that other demonic beasts in the Xiao family, like the Lion King, had been able to assume human forms early, the women suspected Xiao Kun possessed transformation remedies. They were too shy to ask outright and instead tried to hint with furtive glances. Xiao Kun, who had anticipated this, put on a helpless expression and produced a small jade bottle from his storage ring. Inside was a 7th-grade transformation pill. He held it up with a rueful smile. Yan, do you want to grow up and find out what kind of demonic beast you truly are? He asked. Do you have a way? Yan's childish voice was hopeful. Of course. A 7th-grade transformation pill is nothing to me at my Dozun strength, Xiao Kun said. But I can't just give it away. The last time was a gift. This time, you have to give something in return. Yan's face lit up in excitement. Then she clasped her tiny head and tried to think of something to offer. She'd always wanted to discover her origins and ask the parents who had abandoned her why they'd done so. Transforming back into her true form was the only lead she had, but she had nothing of value to trade. Even the medicinal herbs she dug up were eaten on the spot. Seeing her struggle, Xiao Kun decided to set the terms calmly. You've been a source of joy for us. Will you stay by our side for 1 year as payment? That's it? Yan asked, surprised. That's it. Then I accept. Give me the pill quickly, she cried. Yun and the others exchanged curious looks. Although they felt sorry for Xian, there was no need to keep her forever just out of pity. Xiao Kun gave no explanation. Once Xian took the pill and transformed, they would all understand. Before she could swallow it inside the attic, Xiao Kun stopped her. If Xian transformed within the cramped room, she might damage the residence Su Qian had assigned them. The moon hung high and clear outside, bathing the courtyard in silver light, the perfect open space for a transformation. Xiao Kun led Xian out into that courtyard and handed her the pill. Xian didn't object to Xiao Kun's plan. She sat cross-legged on the stone table in the courtyard and swallowed the transformation pill without hesitation. 15 minutes passed with no obvious change, and the girls began to worry. Then a faint purple light started to seep from Xian's body. Half an hour later, the glow had thickened. Xiao Kun, not wanting to disturb others or be disturbed, erected a barrier that sealed the entire pavilion off from the outside. Inside the light, a vague beast shape began to form. The outline grew clearer and larger, and a pressure unique to dragons spread quietly through the courtyard, so strong that even Ya Fei, the weakest among them, grew solemn. After a few breaths, a purple dragon nearly 10 zhang long, about 30 meters, lay coiled across the courtyard, taking up most of the space and radiating the oppressive aura of a beast emperor. For a moment, everyone admired the majestic sight. Then the dragon ruined the moment. She raised a front paw the size of 1 zhang, stared at it, lifted it further, picked at her tail and examined every inch of herself with intense curiosity. It was oddly endearing. Finally, a charming, unfamiliar voice, nothing like her human tone, drifted out. "What sort of demonic beast is this? How have I never seen it before?" Xiao Kun produced a 3 zhang wide golden mirror of abnormal flame, held it up so Xian could get a full view of her enormous demonic form, and smiled. "Congratulations, Xian. You're a void ancient dragon. They're masters of spatial power, the true overlords of demonic beasts on the Fighting Qi continent. Breaking through to Do Zun will be a basic step for you. Do Saint is a real possibility." "Void ancient dragon," Yun and the others blurted out. Judging by the aura emanating from Xian, comparable to an ordinary Dohuang demonic beast despite her Dohuang level strength, they accepted Xiao Kun's words. Xian's voice, bright with excitement, asked, "I knew I was powerful, but where are the void ancient dragons? Why have I never heard of them?" "First change back into human form. It's awkward to explain while you're like this." Xiao Kun's tone was practical. Xian agreed at once. The purple light flared again, but this time contracted. In an instant, a human figure stood in the courtyard, leaving everyone stunned. Because she was completely naked, a faint purple glow clinging to her, the picture of an unexpectedly mature, curvaceous woman. Her soft purple hair fell to her hips, and she was no longer the petite, cute little girl they had known. Perhaps it was her first time reverting from demonic form, and she hadn't thought to conjure clothing. Xiao Kun's gaze lingered. Yun and the others were equally frozen. Xian, however, seemed oblivious. She gave Xiao Kun a small smile and, in that new, alluring voice, asked again, "Now can you tell me about the Void Ancient Dragon Clan?" Medusa and the others snapped back to composure. Yun and Ya Fei moved up to block Xiao Kun's view, while Medusa hurried forward and threw a loose black robe over Xian. Only when Xian was finally clothed did Medusa let out a long, relieved sigh. Xian merely looked down at the robe, unbothered, then walked to Xiao Kun, tugged his sleeve, and repeated her question with the unbothered curiosity of a child. The sight earned Medusa and the others a scolding look for her lack of discipline, while Yun and Ya Fei shot Xiao Kun judgmental glances. Hadn't he anticipated this? Xiao Kun was a little surprised too. Medusa's previous transformations had never produced such an effect. Not wanting to dwell on it, he answered Xian casually, who now stood almost as tall as he did. As the overlords of the Fighting Qi continent, the Void Ancient Dragons are based in the Central Plains. Their home, Dragon Island, exists within a void realm. Normal people can't find it. Xian's beautiful face fell with visible disappointment. But I can tell you how to go," Xiao Kun interrupted. "If you step into the Central Plains, other Void Ancient Dragons will sense you and bring you back to Dragon Island." "That's simple?" Xian's eyes lit up. "It's really that simple. A longing crept onto Xian's features as she imagined life on Dragon Island. Xiao Kun's heart tightened. He knew the truth he didn't want to share. With her imperial bloodline, returning to Dragon Island would saddle her with the responsibility of revitalizing the Void Ancient Dragon clan. That burden would drive her to grow rapidly, and she'd likely lose the innocent, childlike nature she still had. After a pause, he smiled and deflected. Don't rush. You still owe me a year. After that, you can think about going to the Central Plains. Besides, with your current strength, going back now would probably just make you the target of stronger dragons. All right, Xian's daydream unraveled into reluctant acceptance. Medusa then guided the robe-clad Xian back into the room. Xiao Kun lifted the barrier around the pavilion and rejoined Yun and Ya Fei in the sitting room. The next day, Xian's transformation from a petite child to a mature young woman set Jianan Academy abuzz. Many students could hardly believe their eyes. Suqian even came to offer thanks once more. Xiao Kun used the opportunity to visit Peace Town. He met with the Earth Flame sect leader and the Eight Gates sect master and proposed merging their two houses into a new force, the Gan Alliance. The Gan Alliance would specialize in gathering cultivation techniques, dough techniques, medicine, pills, and herbs that Xiao Kun himself lacked, as well as maintaining a steady supply of weapons. To seal the deal, he handed them 2 Huangji pills as goodwill and promised that if they fulfilled his demands well, they would receive a steady stream of medicinal pills and higher-grade cultivation and dough techniques in the future. If they ever encountered problems beyond them, they could send him a message and he would assist. The 2 men were elated and swore they would meet his expectations. Xiao Kun's face hardened. If you're useless later, your fate will be the same as Han Feng and his group, turning to dust and smoke. The warning left them visibly shaken. Chapter 179, The Nascent Fallen Heart Flame. The 2 settled back into their places. With nothing left to do, Venerable Xiao Kun returned to the Inner Academy, leaving the others to continue developing on their own. Back at the Academy, he weighed his options. Refine the 2 newly acquired heavenly flames first, or descend to the magma world beneath the sky-burning Qi refining tower to retrieve the newly forming fallen heart flame. Refining a heavenly flame would take over a week, however, which would break the promise he had made to Suqian. In the end, he chose to go after the fallen heart flame first. Once decided, he went to find Suqian and asked to be taken to the underground magma world. In a bright, spacious room, Suqian looked up at the request and could not hide his curiosity. Venerable Xiao Kun, you want to go to the bottom of the sky-burning Qi refining tower? That magma world is lifeless. Is there something special down there? It is somewhat special. My investigation shows there is a nascent fallen heart flame beneath the magma. With it, the problems of the sky-burning Qi refining tower can be resolved. Hearing that, Suqian was elated. He had harbored doubts about Xiao Kun's method before, but the discovery of another fallen heart flame beneath the magma erased them instantly. He also felt anew the unfathomable depth of Venerable Xiao Kun. Xiao Kun had never been to the bottom of the tower, yet he somehow knew a fallen heart flame existed there, and he was indifferent to the overwhelming magma that deterred most investigators. Suqian led Venerable Xiao Kun to the tower with a cheerful step. Along the way, people bowed and greeted them. Perhaps it was because of the strength Xiao Kun had displayed the day before, but those salutations felt even more enthusiastic than the ones directed at Suqian. Soon they reached the sky-burning Qi refining tower. Only part of the structure protruded above ground now. Once the busiest place in the Inner Academy, it was far quieter after losing the fallen heart flame. Only some fire attribute cultivators still cultivated inside, both for the relative calm and because the constant upwelling of fire attribute energy from the magma still made the Qi inside the tower richer than elsewhere. They reached the bottom of the tower and stood before a thick iron door that should have been tightly sealed. It was meant to prevent students and instructors from entering the magma world below. The formation used to seal the fallen heart flame had relied on more than the door, but after the fallen heart flame's rampage the previous day, that iron door, able to withstand a Pique du Huang, had been terrifyingly warped. After they exchanged greetings with a fire attribute elder stationed there, they entered a cavern several zhang across. As they walked, Venerable Xiao Kun felt the fire attribute energy in the air grow denser and more turbulent. The heavenly flames within him stirred. After a few minutes, they arrived at a pit like a volcano's throat. Beneath it flowed endless magma. The fiery Red Sea never surged in waves. Aside from occasional bubbling, it lay unnervingly still, but it threw up a brilliant pillar of light that lit much of the dark cavern. Elder Suqian, you can wait here. In a few days I will bring you good news, Xiao Kun said. Then I shall await Venerable Xiao Kun's good news, Suqian replied. After a brief exchange of farewells, Venerable Xiao Kun leaped into the pit. The descent was unfathomably deep. Xiao Kun let himself fall for several seconds before stopping a few meters above the molten surface with his do qi. He scanned the boundless, stagnant magma below. It felt utterly lifeless. The few fiery red bubbles did not form waves. The scene pressed on the heart. Since he had entered the pit, he'd felt something pull at him. Now, with careful probing, he realized the attraction was directed at the fallen heart flame that rested within him. It must be the mutual sensing between fallen heart flames, he thought. Knowing the dense magma would dull his sight and spiritual perception, Xiao Kun needed a way to enter and exit easily. He formed several hand seals and sent an illusory clone to hover above the magma as a sensor, then wrapped himself in a golden-green heavenly flame. He leaped down. The molten sea spat tiny sparks where he broke the surface, but they vanished instantly. Once immersed, his vision became a crimson emptiness. He separated a wisp of the fallen heart flame within him and let it lead him deeper into the magma. In that vast, endless red ocean, only a gold-green figure slipped through. He dived for nearly 20 minutes. The monotonous crimson began to tire his eyes, and the oppressive silence tested his patience. The pressure from the magma mounted as he descended, until it reached a degree that would crush an ordinary do huang. To Xiao Kun, a dozun, it was manageable, but it underscored how dangerous this place was. Eventually, the guiding fallen heart flame slowed and then stopped over a seemingly ordinary patch of magma. The little flame began to rotate slowly, flashing bursts of incandescent light. Then it shot forward as a pillar of fire. Transparent rings of light appeared in the previously empty magma, arranged in a pattern. The sudden change made Xiao Kun alert. He circulated his do qi and probed carefully. He calmed when he sensed that the formation, those transparent light rings, was the work of a du zun. The formation finally revealed its contents fully. Because the rings were transparent, his vision looked straight through them. Inside lay nothing but a skeleton, faintly glowing with a soft light. Above the skeleton floated a colorless, transparent flame, small, delicate, and nascent. It was exactly what he had come for, the newly born fallen heart flame. As Xiao Kun registered the sight, a memory surfaced. The formation was a technique left by Venerable Skyfire, who existed only as a soul. Before he could study it more, his keen perception picked up movement. Dozens, no, over 100 unknown creatures rapidly approaching. Their power varied, but the strongest among them reached only peak Do Huang level. Chapter 180, Venerable Skyfire. Xiao Kun took no immediate action. He waited quietly for the uninvited visitor. After a short while, the magma before him began to stir strangely, and a stream of creatures, fiery red humanoid lizards, surfaced and swam toward him. Up close, the flame lizards were covered in scales, their heads round, mouths full of serrated teeth, truly hideous. Because Xiao Kun had suppressed his aura completely, the creatures treated him with contempt, seeing him as nothing more than an intruder. They opened their terrifying maws and converged red light within, forming powerful fireballs capable of grievously injuring a doling or even a do wang. The fireballs traced paths through the magma and shot straight at Xiao Kun. Faced with an attack strong enough to make a do huang flee, he only waved his right hand. A golden-green barrier, condensed from his life essence heart flame, sprang into being, and when the fireballs struck it, they vanished as if swallowed by a sea. No ripple, no trace. The smarter flame lizards realized at once they were confronting someone they should not provoke. They didn't flee, though. They opened their mouths and let out piercing war cries, summoning reinforcements. Xiao Kun did not interrupt them. The lizards' bodies contained crimson beads prized by fire attribute cultivators. He wanted to collect them before stronger reinforcements arrived. Once the lizards had sent out their alarm, they were useless as scouts and could be harvested. With that thought, Xiao Kun casually unleashed a 50-zhang-long ribbon of golden-green dou qi that enveloped more than 100 flame lizards. Despite their futile resistance, the strongest among them were merely dou huang. The group was wiped out. After he incinerated the carcasses, over 100 crimson beads remained. He was stowing them when a commotion in the distance told him the call for aid had worked. More lizards were coming. The next wave numbered over 1,000, their leader already at Dozong. Still easily handled, Xiao Kun allowed them to signal once more and then harvested another 1,000 crimson beads. After that came a third wave, 3,000 flame lizards led by several Dozongs. He continued until the next arrivals were lizard experts, bearing the aura of a late-stage Duzun. At that point, Xiao Kun hesitated. He put away the fallen heart flame, still faintly glowing, and slipped inside the transparent barrier Venerable Skyfire had set up. As he passed through, he felt a probing intent from outside, but relying on his cultivation, he blocked the probing fluctuations and forced his way in. Once he was inside, the transparent barrier blurred and then vanished, folding back into the spatial interlayer. The lizardman had no talent for space arts. Venerable Skyfire had used that weakness to escape before. Xiao Kun could have made a separate pocket space for himself, but that would have wasted time. He preferred to take what he could and leave quickly. Outside, the late-stage Duzun flame lizard who had rushed over screamed in fury. Thousands of his kinsmen had been lost in a day, and he had no idea where the attacker had gone. He shook the magma for miles, sending out waves, while the remaining thousands trembled beside him. It didn't matter to Xiao Kun. Inside the barrier, he checked the crimson beads in his storage ring, nearly 4,000, and nodded with satisfaction. Even after giving away a number of them for critical strikes, he would have plenty for his own use. He scanned the interior. The space was slightly larger on the inside than it appeared, a spatial oddity he could still view in a single sweep. He then focused on the nascent fallen heart flame hovering above the glowing skeleton. With a casual motion, the tiny flame, still very weak, trembled into his hand. It was only the size of a human head and far cooler than a fully matured fallen heart flame. It would be useless to Xiao Kun and Xiao Yan, but more than enough to keep the Jianan Academy's sky-burning Qi refining tower running. Satisfied, he wrapped the infant fallen heart flame with the life essence heart flame and stored it in his ring. After that, he searched the skeleton more thoroughly, but found no storage ring. To continue would require tearing the space apart, and Venerable Skyfire had been portrayed as a decent person in the original story. Xiao Kun did not want to use force against a decent soul if he could avoid it. Time passed slowly. Perhaps Xiao Kun's overwhelming strength had convinced Venerable Skyfire to stay hidden. Unlike when Xiao Yan had entered in the original timeline, the Venerable One did not appear. Xiao Kun decided to speak plainly. He was greedy for the treasures likely contained in Venerable Skyfire's ring. If he could obtain them and then perform a critical strike, he would likely never lack the resources or dou techniques he needed after advancing to Dou Sheng. Yesterday, in the Black Corner region, he'd already acquired more than a dozen storage rings, yielding dozens of Tier 6 and Tier 7 herbs he had never possessed. Nearly 50 volumes of die-rank dou techniques and cultivation methods, and an uncountable cache of gold. He intended to dole out those techniques in batches for critical strikes. With Venerable Skyfire's ring included, he was confident he'd never lack heaven-rank techniques. He cleared his throat and called into the dim space. "I know the senior who fell here was Venerable Skyfire. I am Xiao Kun of the Jiama Empire. I bear you no ill will. Come out and meet me." He feared that if he used force and broke the spatial barrier to search, Venerable Skyfire would truly have nowhere to rest, so he adopted a gentler approach. No answer came at first, only a faint, aged sigh. Then a burst of intense white light erupted from the skeleton, and an elderly man in white robes, hair and beard equally white, materialized. "Who are you, and how do you know I perished here?" Venerable Skyfire demanded, the question burning in him as soon as he appeared. "That is confidential," Xiao Kun replied curtly. After a brief pause, he continued, laying out his offer. Your current state is indistinguishable from death, and you have no attachments. Surrender your storage ring and become an offering for my Xiao family, and I can restore your soul to its former state. I also guarantee that your physical body will recover within 1 year. How does that sound?